On this episode of Jewish Baseball More Than a Game podcast, we have a very special guest, Brad Eisen, who is the director of showcases for Israel Baseball America, founder of Israel Baseball Academy, and fundraiser for the Jewish Federations of North America and Hebrew University. Brad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited and I'm ready to get going.
This is an honor. We're really enjoying speaking to all of you and just getting to know you. Can you just kind of tell us how you started to get into this role, how you got to this point, and just go from there?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Do you guys want the long story or you want me to condense it down?
Please, whatever story you feel the most comfortable giving.
Well, so I'll give you a little bit of context to kind of build the foundation as to how I got to this point and how we got to this point. So I have a background in professional sports. I came to Los Angeles 16, 17 years ago to take a job with the LA Clippers in their front office. And I worked for the Clippers for 7 seasons. And I went over to the LA Galaxy and worked in that front office for a couple of seasons as well. Having a background in sports, I went on my birthright trip. A friend and I were sitting in a hotel room before we went out one night. We were watching some crummy soccer game, some crummy second division Israel soccer game. My friend said, "Hey, why have we never created some type of pathway for Jewish athletes to get into an academy system so they could eventually trickle up to the senior team, right? We understood that being Jewish, you have this inherent opportunity to play in Israel professionally simply because of your heritage." And we always thought from that conversation, it would be really cool if we could find a way to put players, Jewish players, in a pathway to play for these senior clubs in Israel, Maccabi Tel Aviv, et cetera. And that's kind of what set me down this path. So I started working in the direction of trying to partner with Israeli soccer clubs, Israeli basketball clubs, with the idea of, hey, let me find you American Jews who are high level, high ability that we can put into your system and we can move them into your team. And that way we can not take up additional foreign player spots that are available for other players that you want to go get, right? So having Jews allows them to be representative of Israel and they're counted as domestic players, which gives teams like Maccabi Tel Aviv a chance to go get, the high level D1 guys that don't go to the NBA. That was the initial idea. That was in 2012. It kind of didn't go anywhere for a long time. Fast forward to my time with the Galaxy, that comes to an end. I'm looking for work. I ultimately found my way into the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, a job that I never anticipated I would take. I did not ever think that I'd be working professionally in the Jewish community, but when you need an opportunity, when you need a job, you take a job. And it was a great opportunity in hindsight because not only of the network that it's allowed me to build here in Los Angeles, which is surreal, but it's allowed me to take this idea a little bit further. So I'm sitting in a meeting at the Jewish Federation very early in my days there, and the CEO asks the evergreen question, how do we engage more Jewish kids? And my first thought was my experience growing up was all the things I'd observed throughout the course of my professional life. There's a bunch of kids that grow up in Jewish homes that are proud to be Jewish. They get bar mitzvahed. They love that they're from this Jewish background, but they also have this passion for high level athletics. They want to chase an athletic dream. They have ambitions of playing collegiate in whatever sport it may be. And the thing that I think that the Jewish community never recognized with their programming was that these kids are put in a really tough spot when they decide they want to go all in on this athletic dream. Either they have to commit full time so they can train and play and go to all the tournaments, or they're, going to go to Shabbat services and go to summer camp over the summer. And typically, unfortunately, the Jewish programming kind of gets pushed to the side. So that idea was kind of what sat in my head. So I pitched the idea of like, hey, back to let's create a pathway. I said, what if we create like a club athletic program for the best Jewish players in Los Angeles, connect it to a professional club, and start to get these guys engaged in Judaism simply by letting them play with a bunch of Jewish kids on the same floor, allow them the opportunity to engage with the Jewish community on their terms, and still get the high level athletic treatment and training they're looking for. That was looked at by the CEO. He looked at me and said that would never work. And so I said, hey, now I have to go do this. And that's what kind of started me on this pathway. Long story now short, I was introduced to Israel baseball in 2021 by a mutual friend. And I was going to this meeting with Peter Kurz, the general manager of Israel baseball, the gentleman who runs the programming in Israel itself. He was in Los Angeles for something. We sat down for a cup of coffee. And I was just looking to network with him and see if he could help introduce me to some other people to take this idea with these senior clubs in the professional ranks. And so our conversation's going, and I said, "Hey, Peter, I'm familiar with Israel baseball. Like, I know you guys had a run in the World Baseball Classic. I know you guys just played in the Olympics. How do you find these guys to play on your team?" And his answer was, we look for Jewish sounding last names on minor league baseball rosters. And I said, "Well, there's got to be a better way to do it." And he said, "Great, go figure it out." So he kind of just threw me into the mix, and I went to all the players, a lot of the guys you've spoken to. I had a lot of conversations, and we came up with the idea, let's create a showcase program that allows Jewish ball players to come work out with the national team. It allows us to identify and evaluate and kind of build a system so that guys can connect to the national team. We can kind of elevate them into opportunities down the road. And, the icing on the cake, kind of to tie it all full circle, is it's a chance to get Jewish kids on the field together, engaging with one another, doing something that they're passionate about, which is playing baseball.
That's an incredible story. And, it's actually funny you mentioned the last name because I do remember it's actually kind of funny, but I think we were doing the baseball clinic when there was like the fireside chat here in January. I was checking people in for the clinic the next day, and I forgot who I turned to, but someone was there, and I was like, "Oh, this is the first time that I've ever had to check people in that I've actually had to look at the first name because all of the last names were very similar or the same." So I
Yep.
just thought that was very funny when you were talking about
Yep. You get a bunch of Goldsteins and a bunch of, Firebombs. You get a lot of similar last names. It's great.
it's unbelievable. I honestly didn't really think of like that at all when I start checking people in. I'm like, oh, Goldberg. Okay. There's like 7 or 8 of you here. No, first name time. But that's an incredible story. And I guess one of my follow-up questions to that is what goes into these showcases that are in Chicago, New York, LA, Toronto to build that out and to, get the guys, who like Mitch and I'm not sure who's doing the New York ones, but I think Benjamin Rosengard, did he help
Yep.
you with the one in LA?
Yep, Rosengard helps us out in LA. So, look, I built this in partnership with Israel Baseball. I was independent whenever I started it. I have since folded the academy into Israel Baseball Americas, and the academy has gone from not just high school age showcases as I started it, but now it's encompasses the entire youth baseball programming cycle, right? So we try to get ball players in as early as possible for these clinics that you guys are familiar with. We try to bring the community together for fireside chats, for film screenings, ways for young guys to connect. And then the showcase program kind of becomes the bridge, right? The guys who are serious about playing baseball at a high level, who are going to chase that collegiate scholarship, those are the guys that we want to see, that we need to see, and we need to have a program that can kind of bridge them from the grassroots stuff into the more competitive stuff. To answer your question, when we plan a showcase, I make sure that it's in a place that is one, easy for people to get to. I can't be in every part of the country because simply there just is not enough, that we just don't have enough bodies and bandwidth to at this point to pull it off in all of those cities. And also, some cities, I don't know if this is the right phrase, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze. For example, I grew up in a city called Beaumont, Texas, which is about 90 miles east of Houston. So it was not uncommon for me to have to get in the car to drive to Houston to do something of this nature, simply because no one's coming to Beaumont, Texas for 3 Jewish kids. So that's part of it. So we're trying to find locations that are easy to get to and that can draw a lot of people in. So we use Chicago as an example. Chicago, Midwest, centrally located, easy to get to from pretty much every major Midwest city in the country, plus major airports, so easy for kids to fly into. It makes a lot of sense to do it there. We also have a lot of resources in Chicago. We have former players, Mitch Glasser, Ben Rosengard, who's with us in LA, but he's a Chicago guy. We try to go where we have staff. And then from there, it's a lot of getting the buy-in from the players. And the hardest part about doing this is going into a new market for the first time. Chicago, we just did, as you guys know, you were fantastic supporters of that, and I appreciate you working it. We had never been to Chicago before. We'd been to Chicago for the youth stuff, but never for the high school showcase program. So the hardest part is is kind of getting your foot in the door, establishing who we are and what we're doing, and getting the ball players and their families to buy into what we're doing. And then from there, hopefully next year when we see these guys again, it'll be the same guys that we saw will return, and they'll tell all their friends who missed it and who saw what was happening on social media. They'll be like, yo, I got to be there. So, it's very organic, but the biggest thing that makes it successful is that I have the full support of Israel baseball behind me. And I have all these guys across the country who are incredible resources, who are incredible ball players, who have a ton of acumen in the game. And, they're all hands on deck no matter what we ask.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's when we were doing the showcase and just kind of looking at everything, we're seeing like different kids travel from yonder. We had a kid from Tennessee that was there.
Yep.
It's just so incredible how you're able to sort of manage all of this. And I think like one thing that I've always wondered is just like as we're looking at these kids and we're watching them develop and grow, as you know, we want to see them through high school to college and the goals beyond, right? How are you keeping track of all these players as they are going throughout, the different levels, the different stages of their baseball career? I feel like that must be kind of difficult at times, right?
It is difficult, but social media makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I try to gather as much information from the ball players I possibly can. That includes all their social handles, and I keep a running database. Like we are truly building a real
Mhm.
database of ball players. And any kid that has come through the program, we add them to that rolling database. I want to say it's probably about 300 names deep at this point, and I stay on Twitter. I stay on Instagram. I encourage guys to tag me and everything so that we can repost it. I encourage guys to reach out to us and to share updates on what's going on so that we can have that knowledge. We do our best to make phone calls on their behalf, should that be something they're interested in. So it's kind of a two-way street. I do my best to follow them and to stay on top of what's happening in their high school season, in their summer and their fall ball seasons. But I also encourage them. I say, hey, like we're a resource. We're a network of guys that want to help you. We've been there before. We know what it takes, and you gotta pick the phone up and call us, and we'll do what we can to help make sure that we can get you to where you're trying to go.
I mean, yeah, the power of social media is truly underestimated in this day and age, and I think especially with the high school kids now,
Yeah,
they're so advanced in that area. It's just so easy. And I guess this is more of a question, for you, but obviously like tailored towards the younger players, coming from a coach's perspective, myself, and I just kind of want to know, other than playing, like when you're following these social media accounts, what are you looking for? Because I'm sure you want to see some kind of professionalism, some kind of, not kids, posting things that are questionable, I should say,
sure.
because, the brand, Israel Baseball is a brand that you want to keep to the highest integrity.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for beyond the ball player?
What am I looking for in terms of
Like character
of
and stuff like that, because Israel baseball is becoming, especially since Israel Baseball America started, like a household name. I mean, just look at the brackets they're putting us in the net, and in the Netherlands and the World Baseball Classic. They're so I mean, with the growing of the sport, there's going to be guys who come in. What is the, I guess you're looking for, culture fit is, probably a better word.
in terms of how we get guys into the program?
Yeah, like in terms of, I guess, sorry if I'm not being clear.
It's okay.
So when you're following a player, right, and you're following their social media, my question is, every MLB scout says there's that sixth tool, like everyone, what they do off the field. So, what are you looking at culture
Um,
and character wise from them?
it's a great question. I don't know if I've ever actually thought of it. I am I let these guys kind of self-qualify themselves. I listened to the show that you guys did with Adam Gladstone, and he kind of touched on it, right? If a guy doesn't have any interest in participating, then why are we going to spin our wheels and try to get that guy on the field, no matter how top of a prospect he may be? And I've certainly come across guys and spoken with their families, and they just aren't ready for the opportunity, or they just don't see the value at this moment in time, and that's their prerogative, and that's okay. I'm looking for guys that want to be part of this program. And there's a lot of young men out there who are, like I said on the beginning, who are proud to be Jewish, who recognize this opportunity. They've watched Israel in the WBC now 3 separate times. They're going to see us again in 2026. So, I field a lot of DMs like, how do I get on this team? Like, I had one kid, he's a junior in high school, send me an email and say, hey, I want to play on the 2028 Olympic team. And I said, hey man, we got to qualify first, but also, unless you're a first round draft pick by that point in time, I don't know if you're necessarily going to be on that team. But you obviously have an interest in being part of this Israel baseball community. You want to be in our network. I encourage you to come out whenever we're in your region, spend 2 days on the field with us. Let us get some baseline information on you, see you work, put a face to a name. And, we're banking on relationships here. So I think to answer the question, we're looking for guys who want to be part of this program. And there's a lot of young men out there that do. So, that's our priority. And we're building a really good database of guys. And from there, I try to keep it baseball. Like, I'm looking for, show me what you got. I want you to showcase yourself. I want you to be confident in yourself. I want you to come out and take the opportunity, by the horns, but have some fun,
Mhm.
let loose. Like, no one's making the team today. No one's going to make the team until they're at least 22, as you guys probably know, given the citizenship rules. But we're banking on relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, it's so interesting to me. Just, I love hearing about, players having interest and, this is just growing every single day, month, week, whatever, year. Is there anywhere specifically in the US that you kind of want to, touch on a little bit more? I know, like earlier you mentioned, like because you grew up in Texas and you're
Yeah,
90 miles outside of Houston. Is there any region specifically that maybe you want to like tap into a little bit more if, if the
sure.
cards are right,
Yeah, I've got a list of several cities that are high priority for me to add to our program. So the first showcase we ever did was in Los Angeles in the spring
Yeah.
of 2022. We're now heading into our fourth year of programming, and we will be doing our fourth showcase in Los Angeles this June. So that's exciting. Over the course of the last few years, I've just slowly been adding new cities. Again, bandwidth and given what we have where we've added New York, we've added Houston, we have added Toronto, we have added Chicago, we've added South Florida. So those are all in existence and
Hmm.
those are rolling, Chicago being our newest one. We are looking to add something in the mid-Atlantic region this summer. So we're looking Baltimore, Washington, D.C., because that's kind of where our headquarters are. Also on my list is Atlanta. That's a big market that's on my list. And then we're exploring New England. So those are kind of the areas of the country that we aim to get into. And then obviously we have the international aspect in Canada, which has been incredible. So I feel like we have our bases covered. We are Israel Baseball Americas. I
Hmm.
selfishly might want to go to South America at some point in time, but I think we'll wait till the organization gets a little bit bigger for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just incredible, all of those states that you already have added since the formation of Israel Baseball Americas, and then you also continue to add, you want to add a bunch of more. I guess one of my questions for you now, since we asked it kind of from the player perspective and the team perspective, I want it from your
Yeah,
perspective. You've seen Israel baseball grow like crazy the last 5 years. I mean,
sure.
exploded. Where do you see it in the next decade, or where would you like to see it?
I don't know if a decade is too ambitious, but I tell people all the time I want to win one of these competitions. Like I want to win the World Baseball Classic. I want to win the Euros. I want to win the Olympics. I mean, how cool would it be to put a bunch of Jews on the podium and say, "Hey, we just won the biggest baseball tournament on the planet." It would be incredible. I
Moment in history, I think.
optimistic. I'm sometimes, delusionally optimistic, but I think that we will pull this thing off at some point. We've got so much talent in this community and such a history of baseball in the Jewish community. It feels like it could happen. Realistically, in the next 10 years, I'd like to see Israel baseball continue to compete at the highest levels. I'd like to see us continue to qualify for World Baseball Classics. I'd like to see us continue to qualify for the Olympics whenever it's available. I would like to be one of the top, I believe it's now the top 16 playing the Premier 16s. I'd like to
Hmm.
consistently be in the top 16 so we can play in that tournament. And we're only, as of now, I think 3 spots away because we're ranked number 19. So I would like to see that continue to kind of be the standard. And then, like I said, from there, in due time, I think that the next pinnacle is winning a championship in one of these competitions, which would be unbelievable.
Oh
I
my,
think this next one there's gonna be a lot of emotions for many reasons with this next one. I get emotional thinking about it, and we'll be
It's
there,
exciting.
man.
It's
Yeah,
exciting. It's
yeah,
exciting. They released the brackets yesterday, and I'm like,
yeah,
how many days do we have until this thing?
yeah.
looking at those brackets, I mean, especially the World Baseball Classic, a lot of people go, "Oh wow, Israel's in a really hard bracket." If I was Team Israel, I'd be like, I'd be so stoked that they
Oh
think
yeah.
that highly of us to put
Sure.
us against. Because I'd argue like in that bracket, because they have Dominican Republic, it's who is it, the Netherlands as well?
Yeah, the Dutch.
and then is it Czech too?
No, I believe it's Venezuela, maybe.
Oh yes, it is Venezuela. I'd argue that those three teams, you can make the argument are top five in the world at any given point, just with
Sure.
the professional players they have. And even like Jewish professional baseball players. I mean, you have Freed, you've got Jock Peterson,
Yep.
Bregman, Lar, Irvis. I mean, you got guys who are not only real like good, but they're really good. And are you hoping any of those guys come and say, "Hey, I want to play for Israel in 2026"?
I would hope that all those guys return. Like I kind of said earlier, I think that the cool thing is, and this is true for other countries, but in our case, the cool thing is like I'm Jewish. I can play for the Israel national team. So, kind of again to echo what Gladdy said, like, if a guy's put in a spot where he has to choose between Team USA and Team Israel, I don't think we would ever tell them no, don't play for Team USA. But I
Hmm.
think that what we want them to understand is like this opportunity exists for you and you still get a chance to be on the stage and you still get a chance to play in this tournament. And my hope is that we find the Alex Bregmans when they're 14 years old and build a long-term relationship with them. So when that decision does come, they say, no, you know what, I'm bought in. I want to play for the Jewish people. I want to represent the Jewish state. I'm playing for Team Israel. That would be awesome. The WBC is a little bit different than, and I know Mitch touched on this as well. Like, we have different levels to this. We have the national teams that are
Hmm.
playing and you require citizenship. We have the Olympic team also requires you have a passport. WBC, a little bit different rules. I, I would be happy if we ever got any, and I think it's going to happen. It's again a time thing. But once I can get a kid placed on one of those teams, any three of those teams, that's a win for the program. That
Yeah,
shows, hey, this is a real viable opportunity.
absolutely.
And like I said, guys are excited about it. They want to play. It's a really cool opportunity that I don't think a lot of people think about, right? Everyone thinks professional baseball, Division I baseball, and those are high levels and those are great. But also like international baseball is competitive. It's exciting. It's only continuing to gain popularity. And I think that we're kind of in a really cool spot where guys recognize that and there will be a lot of players vying for those spots as we continue to kind of grow this thing.
I just wanted to add to that point because it's so great. I played pro ball in Germany before coming back here and playing semi-professional baseball, and it was amazing. I loved every second of it. It was so fun. Just the culture, played against France and all these other great, really cool. It was so much fun. I just looking at everything from a whole because I know you're very involved with how we're keeping track of these players, bringing them up. So who's gonna go where, who's qualified. How involved are you in terms of just like you mentioned the WBC, like, is like Nate Fish or Eric Holtz or Adam, are they all talking to you as well? Like, are you very involved in these conversations? Because we know Ian Kinsler is the head coach.
No, not yet. Not yet. I talk to Fish on a regular basis. I talk to
Hmm.
Adam on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Coach Holtz,
Hmm.
he runs the academy, right? So he's the
Yeah.
director of our academy. He and I
Yeah.
talk at least once a week. When the time is right, I think that maybe there's an opportunity for me to insert kind of my opinion.
Yeah.
But all I'm trying to do is just play my role in terms of getting guys on the radar, putting them in the pipeline, and getting them to the right player development outlets so that they can grow. I keep, like I said, a running list. I make sure that whenever a commitment gets made, I update my list so I know where they're going to school. I try to share that with our scouting department as often as possible so they can at least know, okay, here's the guys in D1, D2, D3. Here's, what classification they are, kind of like what age they are. So, we're slowly narrowing down guys that could become eligible and maybe when that time is appropriate, they'll lean on me to provide some feedback. But, you know, they're the baseball guys. I'm just the operations guy for the
That's incredible. That's so cool to be the operations part, though, for something
yeah.
that's so in depth. And, I guess kind of straying away from this for a minute, I just have to ask if you do know anything about the partnership with Wilson and how that came about, because some of the new gear is just unreal.
Oh,
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's all Adam Gladstone. That's his expertise. He did that whole thing, him and Fish. Um, I saw the merchandise release whenever you guys saw it, and I had the same reaction, like these are fire. So Adam, if you're listening, I'd love a personalized jersey to hang on my wall.
I hope he is.
yeah, yeah. No, this is incredible. I think kind of just one of my last questions for you is that what are you kind of like looking forward to is there's so many great things that are happening within, Team Israel baseball, so much going on within the US in terms of development, like I mentioned earlier. What are you looking forward to, or just what are you enjoying the most about all of this?
Great question. I enjoy a lot of things. There's a lot of layers to this, so I could give you a thousand answers. One, I enjoy being able to play the role that I play. Like I said, I
Yeah,
have a background in professional sports. I love the business operation of sport. I really
yeah,
love the actual athletic operation. So it gives me a chance to kind of play general manager, even though I'm not. It gives me kind of a chance to play that experience, and it's been incredible. I love being able to connect with these young guys and their families. We've built some incredible relationships with some incredible families and some incredible ball players, and it's fun for me, as I'm sure it was for you guys. It's fun for me whenever I'm at a showcase to be on the field, to be in the dugout, shooting the breeze, chopping it up with the guys. Keeps me young, and it's a lot of fun. I love representing the Jewish people. I love that, this is my way to make an imprint on the Jewish community, to take an opportunity that is extremely cool, that's extremely inspiring, and something to be really proud of, and to give these guys a chance to chase that dream. I think that's something that I really enjoy. And I keep going because we have a lot of ball players that we still need to see. I want to down the road. I kind of joke. I down the road want to know every single Jewish baseball player playing college baseball at any given time, and we're on that path where we're going to get every guy in our system beforehand. I love funneling guys to the Maccabia team. This year, the Maccabia team going to Israel, they have, I want to say, half of their roster is Israel Baseball Academy alumni. So I love being able to help support Israel, or support Maccabia. I'm looking forward to a couple of ideas that I'm working on. I think that the biggest next opportunity for us, there's two. We need to figure out a way to engage the guys when they do get to college. So I don't know how that's going to look. I don't know if that's a pro day. I don't know if that's a collegiate scout team. I'm not quite sure, but a guy comes through our program as a freshman in high school, through his senior year of high school, ideally, and then they go to college. We need to figure out a way to stay in front of them, and to make sure that we're seeing them, not just following their stats and their social media, but like, hey, how can we help you at this moment in time? How can we help you get more scouts on your game? How can we help you get more collegiate opportunities? So that's on my radar. And then at the high school level, I'm trying to figure out a way so we can turn these prospect camps, the showcases, into kind of a qualifier for a scout team that we're going to field with guys from across the country to play in some type of tournament that we're working on. So I don't know how that's going to look, if that's going to be going to, an already established tournament, like a perfect game type tournament of some sort. I don't know if I've been in conversation with a few other international baseball organizations. We're teasing the idea of, like, can we create like a little mini American prospect tournament for our respective countries? So we'll see how that kind of comes to fruition. That's a
that's
pipe
fun.
dream right now. But those are the two things that I'm focused on kind of doing next. But to be a part of this program is awesome. I never anticipated that I would be working for Israel Baseball, but kind of similar to how I never anticipated to be working in the Jewish community, kind of you just take it in stride, make the most of it, and it's been a lot of fun.
So cool to hear all these potential teams coming and getting us more on the map, because I think that's really
Yeah.
important. And, my last question for you, and I ask this to everybody as well, any kid listening to this, or even any adult, what is one piece of advice you have for, them being Jewish, just in general? Like, what advice would you give them being Jewish?
To be proud of being Jewish, to understand that being Jewish isn't a scarlet letter, rather it's a superpower. We have an incredibly tight-knit community around this country, around this world, and we have a common thread. And that's that we all share this heritage, and we look out for one another, and we help one another, and your network of peers is going to help you get to where you're trying to go. And if you lean into it, it's going to be a lot easier. If you resist it, then you're closing a door premature.
Great advice. That's awesome.
That's amazing. Brad, thank you so much.
Sure.
We're looking
Hey,
forward to continuing this conversation sooner rather than later. Maybe, down the line, and seeing, where the development's at in different, different states. You always have Danny and I as resources, as coaches, who would always love to get involved as much as possible. Thank you so much for coming on.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate all your support and all your help. And I hope I can hop on again sometime in the future. It'd be great.
Please
Absolutely.
do.
All right, man. Have a good one, guys.
You
All
too.
right.
See ya.